We're live.
Live. Hold on, make this full screen. Cool. Yes. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Yes.
Nice. Let's go. Now we just wait. Now it's the waiting game. Yeah, first person. Woo! Second person. Yes. We're just gonna wait a little bit, see if some more people will pile in, and then we'll start. Third person. Welcome.
I see you.
Let's see here. I'll ask you guys a question. I want you to type it in the little box, the little chat box. What's your go-to thing to this quarantine business? And it better be reading. What's my go-to? Well, I just started working again.
Okay.
So I mow lawns. So I'm guessing that's not really that much of a quarantine. Okay. I guess we gotta wait a couple more. We're gonna wait a little bit more, then we'll get started. Boom, 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 boom.
Did you text right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Let's see here. Got a minute. Got any funny stories or anything that you want to share?
Like during this quarantine?
No, just in general. Just in
Not that
general.
I can think of.
What? Not a single funny story.
Nope.
Well, that's just boring. Let's see. Funny stories that I have. Problem is, all my stories take a while of the funny ones I have. Well, anyways, Ryan just sent the text, so I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer to see if we can get some more people in here. I was really just starting it to make sure the voice was good, the lighting was good, and everything else. What's it called? Did you think of any funny stories?
For some reason, I cannot think right now.
Well, you know what? We'll just get started, and then people will flood in as we go. So we'll start off in prayer, and then we'll get started. So, dear my Father, I just thank you for the moments, the opportunities that we have to get closer to you and learn about you and the characteristics you have. Lord, I just thank you that you continue to love us through this situation. And Lord, I pray that you just speak through this conversation and that your words come out, not ours, and just the wisdom is just spoken to truth. And Lord, I just thank you for your blessings and the opportunities we have in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So first things first, I want to talk about the coronavirus a little bit. So as you know, you have a lot of time to yourself now. I really want to challenge you guys to think about, what are you doing with this free time? You have a lot of time to get closer to God, to learn about God. And I hear all the time people say, how do I get closer to God? And once I get close to God, how do I stay there? This is a really good time to incorporate habits into your life. Habits really construct a lot of things in your life. So I really just want to encourage you to start incorporating habits in your life. So reading the Bible before you go to sleep, praying before every meal. It could be as simple as just listening 10 minutes of worship. Just begin to build those little stepping stones to get closer to God and remain in that relationship. Second thing I want to talk about is, I remember, I think it was either middle school or freshman year of high school, I don't know. We talked about a West Virginia church, and they're like just crazy. They're radical, right? And one second. And the thing that they did is they had poisonous snakes, and they let the snakes bite them as like a sign of faith. Like they're going to let them bite them and then see if they can survive without any medical attention, without any help, as a sign of faith, showing they have like the ultimate faith to God. First things first, I want to clarify. Yes, God has your back, right? He's not going to leave your back in this time of need. But no, don't put yourself in that kind of situation because you think, because God has your back. Listen to the guidelines. Use things like, hand sanitizer. to just separate yourself from the possibility of being sick. Like, yes, God has your back, and it's important to have faith, but you can show faith without putting yourself in a dangerous risk situation. Like, you don't have to be in larger groups of 10 because God will be, like you say, oh, God's got my back, I'll be fine. And also, I realize that some of you young guys and girls aren't scared of being sick, scared of getting infected. It's very important to follow these guidelines because you don't want to get other people infected. Like, her father has respiratory problems and he's 60. My parents are over 60. We don't want to spread that to them. Same with you guys. You guys are going to be around people that are older than you, and then that could spread like a wildfire. So make sure you're just following the guidelines. That's all we ask. So today we're talking about relationships. We're going to talk about a little bit about our testimony. And if you guys have questions, you can ask. And we're talking about our opinions on relationships. And yeah, so how about you start off telling us how we met, how we started dating, how everything went down.
Okay, so we met through church, actually.
Kind of.
Yeah, so I was best friends with somebody that he was talking to, that he was interested in. And I guess I kind of knew him through that. And then let's see, they stopped talking and prom comes along. I'm just going to give the super short story because it's pretty long. Prom comes along and he needs a date, and JC, my friend, didn't want him to go with anybody else. So they were asking me if I wanted to go with him. So long story short, I ended up going with him, and then yeah, the rest is history.
I'll put a little more emphasis into this because
it's too long.
She skipped over some embarrassing stories. So she used to really dislike
Probably
me.
for a reason.
Right? She really disliked me. And every time she saw me, when she was hanging out with Jay, she'd glare at me and stuff. And I never had anything against her, but she'd always glare at me. Like, I'd walk in the room, she'd be like I could visibly notice that she was upset that I walked into the room.
Okay.
And yeah, and so when my friends got me to go with her, I was excited. I was whatever. But we get to prom, and I'm going to tell this whole story because I think it's funny. We get to prom, and the first thing that happens is she runs and gives this dude a hug. I was like, well, and that I already started to develop feelings for her at that time. And she just sprints up and gives this tall, handsome guy a hug. I was like, well, that sucks. And so I just kind of went through and we played a doubleheader in soccer. So I was really tired. So I had some excuses going into the prom, but we go in there and we start dancing. I hate dancing, but I went and sat and drank the water cooler as she keeps on going and dancing with this guy. And this guy would come up and play like this and stuff. And I'm just like, what is going on? Does she have a boyfriend that I didn't know about? And then Caleb had mentioned something earlier that her and her ex-boyfriend aren't completely done talking. I was like, oh my gosh, is this the guy? And so I'm going through this whole prom, just sitting in if this is my water, I'm sitting there going like this, glaring at this guy because he stole my date. And as they began to talk to Caleb, one of my friends who was actually talking to JC at the time, he was like, or dating JC at the time, he was like, dude, that's her cousin. I was like, are you kidding me? So I spent the whole dance just pouting at this guy because she was dancing with her cousin. And then what's it called? We go into after prom and had a good time. Yeah. So then a couple weeks after that, we started dating. Right away, our relationship was something different than I was used to. So I am not what's it called, clingy. I guess I don't like saying clingy, but I don't like cuddling. I don't like all these things. And I don't like saying a ton of, infatuating words. I seem like I'm an emotionalist sometimes, which I'm not. It's just how it seems. And she said she was the same way, but she was not that way. She was the opposite. She was pretty clingy. And it took what?
I was not clingy at first. I wouldn't say the whole first year I was not clingy.
Anyways,
at least half a year I wasn't.
Anyways, her being that way and me being that way, it took a lot to get used to. And I just want to reiterate to you guys right now that yes, if it was up to me, middle schoolers wouldn't be dating, right? If that was up to me. But since what I say does not matter to most middle schoolers, I am going to say this. Your early relationships really dictate how relationships are in the future. That's why, like, and that's just for all relationships, for friendships, for parenting, for whatever it is, for actual romantic relationships. Your early relationships really dictate what your future relationships look like. So, like if my parents had a healthy marriage, I knew what a healthy relationship looked like. And I could kind of I could move some of that I saw from there to my future relationships. And that's just like, people without fathers, like father influences, sometimes they act out, which I know a lot of people that don't have fathers that are incredible, but there are certain situations where people act out because they didn't have a father relationship that they could, say, their dad wasn't there to slap the wrist if they're doing something stupid, or mother, whatever it is, vice versa. And so, going into that, I want to reiterate, if it was up to me, middle schoolers would be dating, but it is important if you are going to date to know what a healthy relationship looks like. So, moving forward with that, we started dating, and it kind of took a lot for me to balance the differences. I'll say my side, and then she can say hers. I had actually never had a girlfriend up until I started dating Michaela. I mean, I had talked to people, I showed interest to people. I never actually dated anybody because I was very picky with who I dated. And so, as I was beginning to develop this relationship, and this first relationship I've ever been in, I really didn't understand how to share things. So I had a lot of friends in high school, and I spent a lot of time with my friends. Well, once I started dating with her, there was no, like, I didn't know how to balance them. Either I was spending all my time with my friends or all my time with Michaela, and I didn't know how to balance that, which is very important to have a healthy balance. I talk about accountability a lot on Wednesdays. Accountability is where, you have a verbal agreement with somebody that, hey, you're going to make sure I'm doing the right things. And that's why it's important to spend time with your friends, so you can vent to them saying, hey, I've been doing this, this, and this. And your friends can either say, hey, great job, keep it going. Or like, hey, do you think, being under the same blanket, watching a movie late at night is a good idea? And so really just learning how to balance that was a huge challenge for me. And that's kind of, it was like that for the first, I guess, all of our relationship until we got married. But specifically in high school, she went to a small school 20 minutes away, and I went to Kearney High, which is a bigger school. I'm not going to say a huge school, but a big school, right there. And I couldn't drive till I was 18. So Michaela had to drive in 20 minutes to pick me up just to hang out. And I drive out 20 minutes. And what's it called? And that's another thing that just threw a wrench. Me not being able to do basic functions that she was looking for threw a wrench in our relationship, because you want, like, when you're 16, you want somebody to be able to drive so you don't have to always pick them up. And it's just the same. It's just the same way of like food interest. We had a little bit of different food interest. I'm kind of a picky eater, so she had to adjust to that. And so it's just really us learning to be compatible with each other. And what it took was open and honest conversations. You see a lot of people just kind of go through the motions in relationships and not think about what's going on tomorrow. But it's really important to talk about those things, especially if something goes wrong. Like, you need to express those things, like, hey, what you said here really upset me, and how you handled it was not good. This is how you could handle it, and this is what you could have said to avoid upsetting me. So about you, some stuff you have to say?
That's really hard to do. One thing
Yeah.
I struggled with was actually sharing my emotions, because I actually have a little bit of a hard time like opening up a lot. So in a relationship, a lot of the time I would just like keep things bottled up, and then something the next day it would still be there and they would just blow up. So that's something I really struggled
Or
with.
weeks later,
Yeah.
not always the same day.
So I would definitely like advise like not to keep things bottled up, because it doesn't, like, it's just kind of pointless to do that.
And then there's my side of it, is I cannot stand when there's a problem and people won't talk it out with me. So I became super like, hey, what's wrong? Hey, what's wrong? Hey, what's wrong? And I just wouldn't let up. And it became to this standstill of her shutting down more because I'm annoying her, of asking, hey, what's wrong? Hey, what's wrong? Hey, what's wrong? And so just balancing each other's interests and how we react to things was really important. And what that took was open communication, which is really hard to do with anybody, including like even your best friend. Sometimes it's really hard to actually talk about what's really happening. So continuing is, say we started dating my junior year, my senior year. Let's talk about my senior year for a little bit. My senior year, we started getting like really serious. I want to talk about love for a little bit. Okay. So we said I love you really early in a relationship. And it wasn't because one day I woke up and decided to say like, oh, I love this girl. It's because I realized from an accumulation of events, like things of her coming to get me 20 minutes each and every day on the weekends and stuff, devoting her time to me, her texting me right in the morning saying, hey, good morning. Just like things, small things like that. It was an accumulation of events that made me realize that I love her. And gosh, she's blushing. So how I knew I loved her is because I felt real love, like what real love feels like. Today's culture, today's society puts out this thing of like physical touch, like sexual things, like all these things is what love is. That's not what love is. That's a product of love. And that's something that God has made for marriage that belongs in marriage.
Yeah.
And so just learning how to be content with this person right here, be content with your special person without the physical, it's important for you to be attracted to your spouse, but not be importantly or solely not spouse, significant other, to be completely just infatuated with her looks. Like you need to be connected as well as be a little bit attracted to her physically. But it's very important to respect her as that's the daughter of an amazing God, an amazing father. It could be earthly and kingdom, right? And so you have to respect her like that. If you were, say you're way back in the medieval times and you're trying to date the king's daughter, are you going to be able to disrespect her very often without having to be like, well, they're extreme. They do terrible things to people, but like, you demand respect because you're that worthy. You're that high in this person's eyes, this powerful person's eyes. The same way with God. You're their daughters and we're their sons. You need to demand this high respect, right? This respect that's not going to fade away. That's not like, you need to demand a high respect because you are a prize. You're a trophy. You need to find somebody that treats you like that. And that's when you know you're in love, when you see somebody that's just each and every day treats you like that trophy, will do anything to keep that trophy, do anything to just prepare you to meet the Lord. So what else do you have to say about what's it called? Actually, I'll just keep talking about senior year. So my senior year, once I started getting closer to college, I wanted to go to Bethel, right? And that's this Christian college out in California. And that's where her family went. And that's where a couple of my friends from church went. And I just kind of felt like that's the thing to do because my junior year, I felt like I was called to ministry. And so I did what I could to do that. And so I felt like I was going to Bethel, and I applied. And I thought I was a shoo-in because I was on fire for God. I just loved God. I just want to learn everything about him. And I was just so enthusiastic and so happy. Each and every day I'd check their website for a month to see if they're accepting applications, right? So I was just on fire. And once I got accepted, I got really excited because I was going to Bethel, and or I didn't get accepted. Sorry. I didn't get accepted, and I was super bummed out, right? Because I was so excited to go to California. And then they gave me their discipleship school, which is like a step under Bethel. And I still accepted it, and I was still excited. But as I was going out to California, just a lot of things changed my life to where I didn't know if I was ready for a relationship, which was kind of a big, shock to Michaela. And I made the wrong decisions, and I hung out, or, I made rash decisions without talking to anybody, without explaining it out to like my parents or my best friends or whatever it is, my accountability partners. And me and Michaela ended up breaking up, and it was a big thing to her. And so, which you can talk about that right now, how that first breakup was.
It kind of came to, and like very shockingly to me because like I thought everything was going really good, and so I just was like I didn't understand. And so sometimes it's honestly so hard to understand like what's going through like their minds. Like sometimes they don't know what they want, and sometimes they have to figure out like who they are. And so I had to just like go through this whole process of realizing that and being okay with, okay, I just need to give him some space and let him do what he needs to do to become the guy that he um really wants to be, I guess. So I just took that time. I literally, every single day, I got up, I went running, and I just listened to worship music. That was my time to just really get closer to God and realize, just being like, okay, so I just need to really focus on myself while he focuses on himself.
Yeah, that's good. And through that time period and stuff, I really just felt that I'd really let down Michaela and really let down her family and stuff. And through that, I began to spend more time with Michaela and just tell her that I was sorry and build a friendship back up and just really develop a friendship again until eventually we started dating again. So everything was going great. And then we got engaged when I was, what was it, 18, 19,
Mhm.
19,
18.
18? When I was 18, again, another rash decision that I didn't really talk to people about. And I just asked her dad. Her dad gave me her permission, and I did it. Right. And I knew I loved her and I knew I wanted to marry her, but it was pretty fast. It was right out of high school. And so as I graduated high school and I was engaged to Michaela, I started hanging out with my friends a lot, and I didn't have that healthy balance like I was talking about earlier. Right, I had different priorities. So my priorities now is God, Michaela, and before it was just like my friends, like God was first, but then I had friends and family, and Michaela was like my third or fourth priority, which is really was which was bad to be my future wife. I wasn't spending time with her. I wasn't intentionally getting to know her. I wasn't intentionally figuring out the things that about her that I was about to spend the rest of my life with this woman. And so then when I was like, I think 19 is when, anyways, when I was 19, I broke off her engagement. And that was really hard on both of us. And it wasn't because I fell out of love with her. And it wasn't because didn't want to spend the rest of my life with her, but it's because I wasn't giving her the relationship she deserves. I wasn't treating her like she was the daughter of the highest king. I wasn't treating her like she was going to be this person I'm going to spend every day of my life with. I was treating her as somebody I go to when there's nothing else to do. Right. And so it really took me back because one day she called me out on it, and it took me back a lot. And I did make, an irrational decision, and I said, and I shouldn't have broken up with her completely, but we did. And you can talk a little bit through that on your side of it.
um Yeah. So when he did that, it was extremely hard on me. And it wasn't just hard on me, it was hard on like literally everyone that was close to me. So like my family, they saw me go through that emotional roller coaster. So that made it 10 times harder for him to like come back. And so for me, I was put in such a like I feel like I don't know. I was put in such a hard position because I wasn't sure. Um, I was kind of lost myself because I was dealing with, okay, he doesn't want me, but at the same time, he wants me because he's always coming back to me. But so it was really hard for me. And so then when we decided to get back together, it was hard because my family was completely against it.
Understandably.
And because they literally watched me like cry every night and do all this stuff, like, and so I don't really know what I was gonna
And
say.
through that period was really hard for me. And I was talking about, I think last week, where God uses a lot of these opportunities to build leadership. And I know I needed to build a lot of leadership and how to be a leader and how to be a spiritual leader. And really what it was is something that I like about me and Michaela's, both of our sides, was each time we faced something hard and faced something that was like, detrimental to our life that we thought. We always turned to God. Like I turned to the Word, and I turned to worship, and I turned to everything about God because I wanted to better myself. So when hopefully we were back together, we would have this healthy relationship that was modeled after a love from God. And same with her, she turned to worship, and she just developed this deeper relationship with God. And so fast forward, I think it was like 3 months, whatever it was, a while. We started hanging out again on her. Was it your birthday?
Yeah.
On her birthday, she wanted to go to that bouncy place in GI Spring City or something, and I don't know how I ended up there, but I did. How anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know how I ended up there, but I did, and we started hanging out, and we started talking about like maybe if we could get back together and stuff because we had such a good time and realized how much we missed each other. And anyways, we talked about that for a little bit, and then this guy started talking to her a little bit, and they started developing a little bit of relationship. And I remember one night I called her and I asked her, I was like, "Hey, what the heck happened? I thought we were talking about getting back together." And she said, "Well, I could see this going somewhere." And I remembered, oh, I was so mad. I hung up and I was ready never to talk to her again. That I was just so built up with fumes and fury, and I was just so mad. I was so ready not to talk to her again. But at that moment, I just felt like a wave of like, the Lord's like, don't let this go. Like, don't overreact to this. Like, call her back. And so I called her back and I talked through it all week. And it was the worst weekend of my life. It was just miserable. But all weekend I was just texting her, calling her. I couldn't see her because she was at a what's it called?
Family
Family
reunion.
reunion. And the whole time she was just talking about like she can't go back to that. She can't go back to the chance of getting hurt again. And I completely understood it because I did hurt her twice. And it wasn't like just a simple like scratch. It was a deep cut that I kept pouring salt into. And so what it really boiled down to, at least I think, and then you can talk about it, was when I owned up and I took it as a leader, as a man. I was like, you know what? I did hurt you and I'm very sorry, but this is what I can do to prevent that from ever happening again. And once I just like realized how dumb I was being and how I owned up to it, things started completely changing in our relationship. Once I made God a priority and then Michaela and then my family and friends, things completely just took a swing in our relationship. Things weren't so hard anymore. We didn't argue as much. We spent a healthy amount with each other and my friends. And it was just a complete game changer when I got my priorities in straight, in which I had a lot of influence from. I didn't just sit in a room and pout about it like I usually would have. I went to my leadership. I went to people that I had accountability with, and I went to people that have been married for advice and stuff. And it wasn't just a one day thing. It took me 3 months to get to that point to where I could get back in relationship and be that strong person and be that person that's going to honor God every time I see Michaela. And that is another thing I want to talk about is how important it is to honor God every single time you're with that other person that you like, or it's just like even like relationship, whatever it is. It is so important. Okay. Do not let the little things slip up because once you start to let those little things happen, big things develop.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you do these little things and a callus begins to happen. Like that's the example I like to use. Like it starts to become hard over it and you just start looking over it because you've done it for so long. God's going to heal you and save you and redeem you. And you just begin to be comfortable with it and compromise with God. And then those little things turn into medium-sized things. The medium-sized turn to big things. And then next thing you know, you're doing things that you wish you never would have. Right. Michaela had sex before marriage with the boyfriend before me. Right. And it had a huge toll on her. She couldn't like even up until we were married. It was in her mind, and it was a toll on her, and she had to break soul ties with him, right? And so, just not letting the little things slip up, so you don't regret the big things, right? And what that takes is, what's the word? Rules. What's the rules? Yeah, we'll call them rules because I can't think of the other word. I was trying to think of boundaries, right? And so let me give you some advice for boundaries here. Don't hang out after midnight alone. Don't be under the same blanket during a movie with the lights off. Don't lay down with each other. Like there's just little things that you can separate yourself from being in that situation. Because trust me, like once you're doing those little things, it becomes fun, it becomes exciting, and then you look for new things once those things get old, and then you just begin to experiment in things that you shouldn't be, especially because those things are saved for, like I said earlier, marriage. So
And then, like at that point, you're not like really realizing. Like you can't really discern. Like, is this really love or is it like just
it's good.
lust?
Am
you
I
know?
just in love with the action? Am I in
Yeah.
love with feeling, that I'm the most important person in the world, right? And so, do you have any closing thoughts? Because we're at 30 minutes.
No.
So just leaving you guys with this, just really be cautious in the relationships, friendships, whatever it is that you're into, right? You need to make sure that this person likes you for you and not because you're athletic, not because you're funny, not because you're good looking, that they like you because, you're amazing, that you're the son and daughter of the truest king, that you have amazing qualities, that you are beautiful, that you are, make sure they really treat you like a trophy in a sense, not like, but I'm saying like they treat you like you're something completely unique that they've never seen before because that's who you are. And don't settle. That's the worst thing you can do. Demand the highest respect. Demand that don't just settle because you think someone's kind of into you.
And maybe just don't just date to date. Maybe you should,
Right.
if you maybe just date to marry.
What you
That's
guys
the
are,
smartest
which
thing.
is you guys are very young to think about. But like I said, your early relationships really can dictate your future relationships. If you become used to these things in your
Yeah.
early relationships, it takes a long time. And I can tell you that from her past relationship. It took a really long time for Michaela to break those things.
Yep, to recover from it.
Yeah. So just
And
don't become
healing.
callous. Keep God your priority. Keep your family and your friends in your loop. That's another thing. You have to make sure your family's behind this relationship because without your family, relationships will not work. I can tell you that right now. And it took me a really long time to get her family back on board, but I couldn't have done it if they weren't back on board.
Mhm.
And so with that, do you have anything else to say?
Nope.
We're signing off. Thanks for joining. We'll say a quick prayer and then we'll end. Dear my Father, we just thank you for these kids and whoever is watching, that, Lord, that a seed's planted and that the seed's going to be watered and harvested. And Lord, I just thank you that your blessings are true and your promises are true. And Lord, I just thank you that each and every day we get to become closer to you, that you give us the opportunity to know you, Father. And I pray that we just take that opportunity to know you and we become closer and just realize that we are the true sons and daughters of you. And Lord, we just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, guys. Take care.
See ya.
Use Germ-X. Be safe.